Good afternoon, all. Welcome to the 13th International Documentary and Short Film Festival of Kerala, organized by the Kerala State Chalchitra Academy. Now we begin the conversation with Dr. Rajesh James, documentary filmmaker and short documentary selection committee member, and Pankaj Rishikumar, documentary filmmaker and long documentary selection committee member. I welcome you both onto the stage. Let's begin the session.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this conversation session. We have today with us Pankaj Rishikumar, and Pankaj is not a strange face to us because all the documentary lovers and especially for the Kerala audience, he's familiar. Particularly, his very interesting and perhaps 2019's Oscar entry. Janani's Juliet. We have seen it here and it won Best Documentary Award too. So Pankaj is an independent documentary filmmaker. He's based in Bombay. He had his education, perhaps film education from Film and Television Institute of India, Pune. And his first film was Kumar Talkies, which was released in 1999. From there he has made more than 5 to 6 films. In fact, he is on the verge of making his next, perhaps the latest film, To Die a Frenchman. So we are so happy that you are here, Pankaj. And let's start our very casual discussion. So, I mean, this is a conventional beginning of any conversation. How did you start your love for cinema?
Hello. Okay. Well, I hated cinema when I was a child. I remember in our school in Delhi, we have this annual picnic. But in my school, in addition to the annual picnic, there would be a day when all the children would be taken to see a children's film. And I remember taking a letter from my parents saying, please let Pankaj sit in the class. And I sat alone in the class because I was so scared of the big screen. Well, that's my journey, getting into cinema. I remember my first film finally when I got initiated was actually Hirok Raja Deshe by Satyajit Ray, which kind of completely initiated me into cinema, and there's been no looking back, at least in terms of watching films. How I got into cinema, into filmmaking is kind of a odd journey, and because I was very active in theater when I was in school from class 6 to my final year graduation, which is like 12 years. And in college, I picked up photography. I was very active in that. And at that point of time, the career avenues were hardly any career avenues. So I had no choice but to apply to Jamia Millia Islamia, the MA course. And I was there, studying there for 6 months when there was a call from the Film and Television Institute, and I was only eligible for film editing. So I got into that knowing I wasn't very sure what these courses are all about. I had seen practically everything that was available till that point of time. And I'm talking about late 80s. Delhi was very, very vibrant, and we would land up seeing at least 3 to 4 world classics on the big screen in Delhi at that point of time. So I land up in the institute. I specialize in film editing, knowing I wasn't very sure where life is going to take me. Finished the course, got an immediate break. I was assistant editor on Bandit Queen, and then I did a couple of other projects. But somehow it never kind of went well with me. I didn't think I fitted into the industry. And also, things were very different that point of time. If you're looking for an independent break as a film editor, it was like impossible. Anyway, things happened in my life, in my personal life, and by 95, I had quit everything and to make my first film. And so 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 5 years, that's how Kumar Talkies was realized. It was on 16 millimeter, and it's a story of a cinema hall which my father had built in a small town in UP. And it was never part of the family conversation. And in 95, he died, and his death kind of, you get into a lot of history and a lot of memories which have not been discussed. And I went back to that cinema hall, which was still up and running, and just started getting deep into it, what it was all about. So that was my first film, and yes, there was a personal element attached to the film, because it's my father who had built it. But the film was not about me or my father. It was actually, I mean, to put in a nutshell, for me, it was image making in a small town in UP. That's what it was about. So that was my first film, and by the time I finished it, I mean, there was no going back. Let's put it this way: there were no avenues to edit. There were no opportunities. The digital technology had come. The mini DV, had come. In fact, in my film, I've mixed 16 millimeter and mini DV, extensively. And this is way back in '98. And we married both of them, and things like that. And because the digital technology came in, so I bought myself a camera, and 2001, I was in Kashmir shooting my next film. And it's been no looking back, ever since. It's been now 25 years and a dozen odd films which I've done. Well, that's been my very simple,
Yes.
straightforward journey.
Yes.
Watching. Yeah.
In fact, Pankaj believes in deprofessionalization and deinstitutionalization. Like,
Completely.
so you
yeah.
can, in between, if you have any
Well,
questions.
yes, I
right.
would, I don't want to get into these formal discussions. And so as an audience, I can't see you, but if you can just raise your hands and somebody can point out, it's much rather we take the conversation that way, rather than, two people trying to, talk. It won't help much, frankly. So I would appreciate if questions come from your side. That would help a lot. Yeah.
So let's come back to your first film, that is Kumar Talkies. So, from your conversation, you said it's almost like your grandfather's rice mill has been converted into a cinema theater
Yes.
by your father.
Yeah.
So, and you said the first film was a kind of, trying to term with what is happening around
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So, why you felt like making a film on Kumar Talkies, which is almost like a material thing in your life,
Yeah.
and you have to bring your personal self into it.
Okay.
So,
Okay, well, see, because it's a film about a cinema hall which my father had built, there was no choice. I had to include myself into the project, because it's not just about me, it's about my father, it's about my family, my two elder brothers. So they had to, articulate their worldview, what they thought of the cinema. But for me, from the starting point, and again, if we look back into that particular time in history, '95, we are talking about a time when cinema is dying. The cable has come up in a very big way, and I wanted to get that, capture that sense that, what does cinema mean to people over here? And we are talking about a hall which is, bigger than this in a small town in UP, but there would be 100, 150 people who would come for any screening. So what does cinema, what does image making mean in a small town? So that was my endeavor in that project. Yeah.
context, I feel like we are sitting in a multiplex theater,
Yeah.
and we're talking about a day which is already gone.
Yeah.
So, what is your feeling right now? Because we're talking about Kumar Talkies.
Well, frankly, I'm not a romantic at heart when it comes to cinema, frankly. Things change. That's what time is all about. It changes. Time signifies change. So I think the challenge is, how do we as human beings negotiate that change? And somehow Kumar Talkies could not negotiate that change. It was a dilapidated building in '95, and the film got over. I finished in '98. The cinema continued, and finally in 2005 or 6, the cinema shut down, and the structure still stands over there. Nothing is happening, and that's what change is all about.
Do you go back to that place?
Huh?
Do you go back to that place?
Oh, no, I haven't. I went back just to share the film once with a few people over there, and that was it. No, I haven't gone back.
Can you talk about the experience of making the film? For instance, you said you made the film in 60 mm.
Yeah, okay. Well, it was a Herculean task, because That time there was an option of doing it on beta. I don't know how many of you are over here are familiar with that technology. But when I was conceiving the film and I was talking to my camera person, Avijit Mukul Kishore, a very big celebrated camera person in the documentary circuit, we were quite convinced that this film cannot be done on beta. It has to be on 16 millimeter. The other thing which we were very clear was that we will actually be mixing 16 millimeter and video simultaneously. So in the final film, when you see there are two different textures, you cut from 16 to video and vice, and so we wanted to have that kind of a visual discourse in the film. In fact, at some places in the video, we've also left a timestamp, 30th July 1998, 12:20 in the afternoon, what the video technology offers, So that was one thing which we were very clear about, that we wanted to, keep these two mediums in mind. Well, it was next to impossible making that film. I didn't know where to go, how to start. I would say I was just very lucky. Because I kind of wrote a concept note proposal. I didn't know what a project note looks like. So I actually wrote 6 pages of a document with photographs in it. And I remember just randomly, I heard of BBC. I heard of Arte France. I heard whatever. I just sent it to them. Some friend said, somebody said there's something called a Hubert Bals Fund in Rotterdam. So I sent them also. And it's very strange. Within 10 days, I got a fax from Hubert Bals, Rotterdam, saying, if we like this, and do you mind sending us a budget for your project? I didn't know that you need budgets for projects like this. So I actually sent them some kind of a budget, which was just kind of some cooked up images, figures, and they said, yes, we like it, and we will get back to you. And after 6 weeks, they actually commissioned the project, and they said, in our history, we have never commissioned documentary projects, and we are making an exception this time. But we will give you this much money if only you can tell us you have the balance money. So I remember that point of time, we had come up with a figure of 12 lakhs, and they said, we'll give you 6, but you have to prove to us that you have another 6 lakhs. And that became a nightmare at that point of time. So very smartly, we kind of sat on the budget, and we realized there was a cameraman's figure for 40,000 rupees, sound recordist, his fees, and other fees. And we said, well, this is all free. And my cameraman, Avijit, gave me a letter. My sound recordist gave me a letter. I gave a letter to myself, director, producer, editor, all free. And the rest, 2 lakhs, I have. We borrowed money and showed it, in a bank savings account, and sent them a fax copy. And they said, okay, the money is yours. I mean, these are the kind of strange things you do. But it was quite a learning experience, because I had no clue, And you're doing things on 16 millimeter. You're impressed by world cinema, and where the shooting ratio, even that point of time, would be 1:20, 1:30. And here you're trying to do a film where you cannot afford a shooting ratio of maybe 1:3. And we just completely went wild, overboard. I think I overspent on every front. Whatever savings my dad had left for me, I just let go of everything. I said, I have to just make my first film. And I actually edited the 16 millimeter film sitting in my drawing room. There is a small machine called PicSync. I mean, people who are from old school, there is a thing called Steenbeck, which is like a huge dining tableware. But there is a smaller version called PicSync, and I actually got a PicSync, and I had one bucket here and another bucket this side, and the entire film was cut in my drawing room, in my living room. So, I mean, these were the the challenges one faced in the making. I made a lot of friends, and I lost a lot of friends. I think that was a great learning experience for me when I look back. Yeah.
So one thing I love about your kind of filmmaking is you make it, at least you make it, you make it for the audience to think that filmmaking is not a big, serious business.
Well, it's certainly not. It
Yes.
is, that's something which I hated while I was at the film school in Pune. They would put you on a pedestal. Oh, you're a film editor. I said, bullshit, come on. I mean, it doesn't mean anything, you know. I mean, so what? You're a film editor. I mean, how am I, you know, superior to, I mean, this person who's handling the microphones, or the one person on the street who's running a restaurant? It's a profession. You do it well. End of the story, you know. But you know, in the film school, they have an attitude problem. I think that's what they thrive on. And I always wanted to just demystify filmmaking. I think is very simple. It's not rocket science at all, and especially in today's time when the digital technology has come in, it is not rocket science. It is the simplest thing on this planet. Yes, storytelling, you know, or narratives, they will always remain complex till the day we die. You know, that each one of us will have to figure out. But in terms of how to make the film, technology-wise, this is the easiest time we are living in. But of course, the film schools will give you a different story altogether even now. You know, they'll make it sound as if, oh my God, you're God's gift to man-child, which you're not, frankly. Yeah, I mean, you know, so and it was because of that kind of an attitude, you know, because Kumar Talkies was 16 millimeter, I didn't have those skills. I actually had a crew. And after that, I decided, okay, now this is done. I got a digital camera. And since 2001 till date, I produce, direct, edit, camera, sound, all my films. On all my projects, there is just me and one more person. There is no room for a third person on my crew at all. And that second person is a collaborator, associate director, who has to, I mean, there are requirements. You have to share the same room, you know, yeah, whatever, man, woman, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You have to share the same room. If I'm working in a different culture, so that person will definitely know that language, so you have to translate for me. You will have to drive me around. There is one skill which I didn't pick up in life, and that is driving. So that person will have to drive me around, and we work together. You know, so all my films last 25 years have been shot like that. Me and one more person, and it just stops over there. I've never had a third person in my crew. And it makes filmmaking very, very easy and very, very cheap. I can assure you that. It's very cheap. Just do the calculation. You know, if there are just two people, and it's for that reason I've been able to shoot extensively. Like I did a film on women boxing in India around 2006. I shot for 3 years. Then of course there have been smaller projects. I started shooting in Pondicherry in 2012 March, and something which I thought I'll finish in 3 months, I finished after 7 years. I shot for 7 years, and but as a result of 7 years of shoot, instead of one film, I shot 3 films finally. You know, but for me, patience is the game. I belong to this very old school, the observational school of filmmaking. I mean, if you are familiar with the work of Frederick Wiseman, you know, he's a big name in the documentary. I follow, I'm inspired by him. And so it's purely so when I approach my subjects, okay, yes, we do talk, but I am just there as I just observe and observe and observe and wait and wait and wait and wait till they start hating me. And the minute they start hating me, the actual documentary begins. Because before that is all PR. You're trying to be nice to each other. But once they start hating you, you know, the actual film begins over there. And then after that, it's very smooth, you know.
So you're saying that you are a kind of a fly on the wall, the typical fly on the wall image.
Well, in terms of shoot, yes. But that approach doesn't work all the time. You know, you have to be a fly on the wall, but also you have to, at strategic moments, you have to intervene in what is happening in front of you. You have to plan a few scenes. You have to initiate your character to do something, you know. Like when I say initiate your character to do something, I'm not saying enact for the camera. No. I've never done a single shot like that in 25 years. What I mean is that you plant scenes. For example, if I'm shooting with you and I know over the period of conversations I get to know, you know, you would love to go to a beach, you know, that's your desire. You love beaches. So I will see to it that sometime we go to the beach. I will initiate that activity, that we land up at the beach. well, that's I would initiate that. So that's whatever you call that, you know. So it's kind of planning a scene rather than asking you to, okay, now we are at the beach, can you do this for me? No, I will not do that. So I'll take you to the beach, and then we'll see if it works out. Maybe the scene works out, maybe the entire footage is NG. I'm okay with that. So a lot of planning goes.
Yeah,
Like
in
that,
your
yeah.
second film, which I think it's in continuation with what we are talking about. It's set in Srinagar. It's in
Yeah.
Kashmir,
Hmm.
and perhaps from your personal semi-autobiographical first film, you perhaps jump into perhaps the social
Yep.
psyche of viewers,
Hmm.
and you're focusing on folk singers there.
Yeah.
And what I loved about the film is instead of other films which is set in Kashmir,
Yeah.
we don't see gunshots in your films,
Ah.
but you have some metaphors or images like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
boat
yeah.
cutting through the
Yeah, well, I mean, there are no gunshots in the film. Also, the other thing which there are no women in most of my films.
yes.
Most of my films, there are no women, and I don't want to. I'm a man. End of the day, making a
But
film.
Japanese Juliet is
Yeah,
different.
well, it was, but you know, it's a group which is full of, and it's theater.
Yes.
Theater space kind of becomes a gender, a gender-free kind of a space. But otherwise, most of my films, it's very difficult to break into that space where you want to talk to women. And I strongly believe that the absence of something will make you feel the presence of it. So in the Kashmir film, because the idea we have in mind is about gunshots. So while I was editing, I saw to it that there are no gunshots in the film. You know, you just work on a very visual tapestry, and you create that sense of fear, and the sense of angst, which the folk theatre, the bhands. So the film was on bhands. Bhands is the traditional folk theatre form of Kashmir, and the film was the one-liner for me was how does art survive in a regime of fear? You know, so that was the entire that was my starting point for that project. Yeah.
But taking from the argument you said, if when we reread your films, you said there is no women. So and you said the absence of women make them more present.
Yeah.
But looking from different angle, what if I say you are a patriarchal filmmaker? Perhaps you have a
you're free to have those judgments. I would appreciate that you have a judgment about me. I like that. I can only disagree with it. I don't think I'm a patriarchal person at all. It's just that when I'm making films, I have to negotiate a few things, and it's very difficult to break into, to get the women's point of view in projects. It's not that easy, and at times, there are these strange binaries which we have kind of given in documentary, that the women's point of view, the LGBT point of view, the disabled point of view. Damn it, there are 20 point of views. I'm a filmmaker. I'm trying to just initiate one point of view, and I think that is sacrosanct. So at times, there is no point. We have this that a film should address everything. No, it need not. So in some films, yes, the woman's point of view becomes important. It is vital. And in some project, it is not. It is just not, not every film has to be seen from a man's gaze or a woman's gaze.
Yeah. In fact, I was just playing devil's advocate part.
Yeah,
But
sure,
in fact, in your film called God's Land, where you see an old lady who is talking to the God performer.
Yeah.
Perhaps I think that's a very important scene which we need to talk about, where you see a lady questioning God, aren't you there? Right? Aren't you a God?
Yeah.
I mean, those are some radical questions that this lady raises.
Yes.
So and more importantly, after some time from Kalpi to Srinagar, you come to south.
Yeah.
So why this topography or geography in your films? It changes. Perhaps we don't see that kind of a filmmaker in India who makes films across India, perhaps a pan-Indian point of view.
Yeah.
So and these days you're focusing on the south, right?
I've been focusing on the south since 2009.
Yes. Why?
It's been 12 years. Coincidence and fate. You don't plan it. Life takes you. So what happened was I had done a film with Dr. Anil Joshi. He just got the Padma Bhushan this year. He's not a pro-BJP person, by the way, just in case. Yeah. And he is a person based in Dehradun. So I had done a film with him. He called me up in 2009. He was actually doing a cycle yatra from Kanyakumari to Delhi. And he was interested in understanding the state of the Indian farmer. And I thought, Manika, this is exciting. 2009, I'll get to travel from Kanyakumari to Delhi on the cycle. I was on the motorcycle. They were cycling down. So, and I decided to document that, and I made a film out and make a film out of it. That was the plan.
It's also called a road movie.
Yeah, kind of a road movie, you can say. Not so much.
Yes.
It became, by the end of it, it became very staccato, I would say.
Yes.
You know, and so we started with Kanyakumari, and second day itself, we stopped in this place called Nangoneri / Valiur, where the biggest SEZ is coming up, and it's been coming up since '98. It's still coming up. It hasn't come up, and we stopped over there, and I said, "Oh my God, 2,500 acres of land. Where did they get this?" And it's all lying barren. The barbed wire has been put up, and the SEZ should come up. You know, so I just was just intrigued, and so I started shooting, and that's what I do. So I said to Dr. Joshi, "You go ahead. I'll catch up with you. We have 2 months, to make this film, but let me just focus right now in Nangoneri." And I stopped over there, did my initial work, met a lot of people, and the film started germinating from there. And of course it was in Tamil. Now what do I do? So my colleague who was assisting me was from Chennai, so it was very easy to negotiate that part of it till we reached Andhra. And when we reached Andhra with Dr. Joshi, my wife joined, who's a Telugu person. So that's what I call coincidence and fate. And we left Andhra and we reached the cow belt, or the North India. We reached North India, and I speak Hindi. So it became very smooth. But yes, I went back to that space again and again, Nangoneri, and it was all in Tamil, and that's how the film was done in God's Land in 2013 or something. And by that time that finished, I had already started shooting in Pondicherry, knowing jolly well I do not speak a word of Tamil or French. But I don't think that language is a barrier when you're making a documentary, because if your heart is in the right place, I think you can do it in French or in Russian also. There's no problem. So last 7 years in Pondicherry, I still don't know. I still can't speak a word of Tamil or French. But now I'm finishing the third film in Pondicherry. So yes, coming back, it's just a coincidence that I've landed up in South India. But yes, taking that as a challenge, the film which I'm simultaneously shooting is in Nagpur. But again, that's primarily Marathi. I don't speak a word of Marathi, though I've been in Bombay for 30 years now. So again, I'm working there with a colleague who speaks the language very well. Yeah.
So coming to your very important film called Janani's Juliet,
Yep.
I love it very much.
Oh,
In
thanks
fact,
a lot.
I saw it from here.
Yeah.
So you see a lot of references like Shakespeare there. Then you see Pablo Neruda there. Then of course the traditional Tamil theatre, Indian theatre background. Why such a form in a documentary, right? You have a lot of playfulness, insight, and it is talking about a very pertinent issue called caste killings or honor killing.
Yeah.
So,
Well, see, all these things which you were talking about, Pablo Neruda, Shakespeare, caste, that was inherent in the project. It's not something which I brought to the project. Well, to the audience over here, I'll just give you a brief background. So while I was shooting in Pondicherry, there's a theatre group called Indian Ostrom. It's very popular now, it's very famous. And I knew the director of that group very well. I started documenting a lot of his work. And somewhere in 2017-18, he said that he would be adapting Romeo and Juliet into Tamil. I said, okay, what does adaptation mean for you? And so he said, okay, if Romeo and Juliet, we have this, the entire film, the entire play is around family rivalry. I would be changing the family rivalry into caste rivalry. And for me, that was it, because it's not the same thing. The two, you cannot replace one with the other. So I knew it's gonna be a different play altogether. Adapting Romeo and Juliet into a Tamil situation with the caste angle will be a different ball game altogether. So I said, okay, I would like to make a film on this process, the process which you follow, And it was very close to the kind of process which I used to follow for 12 years when I did theater from school during my school time. And so I jumped into that space, and not knowing very well where the film is gonna go. And in 15 days, I figured out my anchor. And my anchor was that, there were these three girls who had joined the group, and one of them would finally land up playing Juliet. And but of course, all of them will be, casting for it. They'll be auditioning for it. They'll be, the way the theater group works is that everybody does every other role. So I was very keen how these three girls look at Juliet. They are at the same age. They were all like 19, 20, 21. Juliet is also, So how are these three girls looking at love? How are these three girls looking at caste? So that became my starting point. And I was there with them for 75 days, and at regular intervals, I would just talk to them on camera. Your idea of love, your idea of caste, so what is happening in the rehearsals, all the other peripheral things which you do to build up the argument. But primarily, what's your idea of love and what's your idea of caste? And simultaneously, the play was being rehearsed, the play was being devised. So Indian Ostrom does not take, they will not take a script, Shakespeare script, sacrosanct, and say, okay, let's translate into Tamil and that's it. No. So Romeo and Juliet by Shakespeare becomes a framework in which they work. And then they come up with, okay, in this scene, this happens, how would we adapt it? How would we improvise something like that? So my focus, as I said, became this entire issue of love and caste. And I let go of any other thing which was happening. I mean, Romeo and Juliet, the canvas is huge. The actual play is 4 hours long. It's full of song and dance. And I wasn't keen on any of that. So all of that was systematically left out during the shoot. And I just focused on these three girls and the group. And that's how the film was conceived. It's very strange, and that's what I love about documentary. You really don't know where you're going. You land up there with a very sketchy idea. After 7 days, something happens. After 15 days, you find an anchor. Okay, this film is around these three girls. Then you start shooting, and you shoot, and you shoot, and you still don't know. And you still don't know. And you shoot like that for 60 days without knowing, what the final shape of the film would be, where you're going. And for me, that is the most exciting part in a documentary. That's sense of adventure. Your heart is in the right place, but you're not getting there. And I believe in accidents, and I've been lucky in all my projects. Accidents happen all the time. And with this project, I don't know if people are familiar with the infamous Udamalapattai rape case, honor killing. So there's the story of Shankar and Kausalya, and Kausalya's parents actually hired mercenaries, and they killed Shankar, and in the process even Kausalya was badly injured. So that case, that infamous case, was constantly referred to during the theatrical production as dialogues, as reference, And I was very keen to go and meet Kausalya, So I remember towards the end of the shoot, we one day said, okay, let's go and meet her. And we drove down like 12 hours from Pondicherry to close to a place in Wellington, in the Konur Hills. And we met her. We met her for 1 hour. The camera was rolling for 50 minutes. And she kind of just told her life story, what she went through and everything. And those 50 minutes told me, I know my structure. I know what this film is going to be. I've cracked it. Let's put it this way. I've cracked it. And it was a very intense 50-minute interaction with her, where she just narrated her life story, the ups and downs and all the whatever she had gone through. We came back to Pondicherry. We projected that footage to the group. And based on that footage, and then that's what Indian Ostrom is all about, based on that footage, they came up with 3 more scenes, which were finally put in the play, and that's the vibrancy. And based on that footage, the other 2 girls who could not make it to meet Kausalya, I initiated, and this is what I initiated telephonic conversations. So sitting in Pondicherry, these two girls call up Kausalya, and they are talking about marriage, sexuality, caste, and things like that, and very intense, intimate conversations, which becomes raw footage for me. So, all these telephonic conversations, along with the footage I had shot, became part of Janani's Juliet. And the thing is in documentary, and that's where the crux lies. I'm saying this because I also teach once in a while in Bombay, and people have a very strange idea for documentary. And that idea is that they will land up at the crossroads and they will plant the camera and something will happen, and that's a documentary. And I keep telling students, nothing will happen. I can assure you, nothing will happen. You will have to, you will have to do something. You will have to finally understand what you want, So what I call an interpretation of reality, So in Janani Juliet, for me, that was the classic case, because what the group was doing, as I said, was a 4-hour play full of song and dance and whatnot. And what I did was I just interpreted what they were doing, and I made a film out of it, And there are a lot of elements in my film which are not there in the actual play. But when you see the film, you will not realize it. So that's how that film was done,
I think this is the time to take questions from the audience part.
Yeah,
yes.
Go ahead. I'm sure we can hear you. Okay.
So this is regarding Shakespearean adaptations.
Yes.
You mentioned that you have already adapted Romeo and Juliet.
The theatre group was adapting Romeo and Juliet into a theatrical space.
My question is regarding how far there are trailblazers in filmic history where a lot of Shakespeare adaptations, like The Throne of Blood by Akira Kurosawa, the Japanese movie director.
Yeah.
How far such adaptations influenced in your filmic career?
Okay.
As a creative source.
Okay. Well, for this film, Janani Juliet, which was an adaptation of Romeo and Juliet, I did not even bother to look at any filmic representation which was done on the big screen, because I knew what I was doing was very, very different. Well, if you see the film, it's actually not even Romeo and Juliet. The film is actually about Kausalya and Shankar. I mean, the spirit of it, and I believe in the spirit. So there was no. I didn't feel the need to go back and see adaptations of Romeo and Juliet. In another situation, yes, I would always do that. I would always. That would be very good research.
Sir, my question to you is regarding the budding documentary makers. How far they can cope with the adaptations, like Shakespeare or some other writer?
See, those adaptations are then you are getting into the fiction space. If you want to do Macbeth tomorrow, we have Vishal Bhardwaj's interpretation. But yes, you can come up with your own interpretation, but that's fiction. We are talking about the documentary scenario, and I don't know in documentary how looking at any of these adaptations would help, really. Depend. Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Hi sir, my name is Mithun, and I just made a short documentary which is in
Congratulations.
IDSFFK.
In the competition?
In the competition.
Damn good.
Thank you. I was very inspired by your thing, and especially when you said your crew is of just 2 to 3 people.
2. 3? No, there's no room for 3. If
so
you're planning to be on the crew, you're mistaken. Sorry. Just 2.
Noted, sir. If the second person in your team is not available, please let me know.
Definitely.
So coming back to this thing. So I made my documentary, and initially we started with 4 people. But on the day 1, I realized that, those 2 people are unnecessary. I said, I think you should go. They were sound people, and, I thought they are becoming a problem for me. So I just shot a feature-length documentary over the period of some 3 years.
Wow.
That's not, I have not started editing, but again I realized it. So I had some camera person friends, and I do not like camera. Handling camera and handling this technical stuff. But while doing it on two schedules, I realized that they are becoming a little problematic. And then I bought a camera, a video camera, because I don't understand lensing and which lens to when. And it is like when you are alone or when you are two people. So same here, my wife came with me, and most of the times I went alone by mounting the mic. So this was really inspiring, and like I felt a little guilty also, like am I doing a mistake, like because sound is not handled separately. And I mean, two things, like one is guilt. One thing was like, it's like you are writing a poetry, you have a pen and paper and you are doing it the way you want. You can't communicate it to the camera person that you have, if you have a separate camera person, and he has also his own views. And he was telling me that camera person is also a director of the documentary. I mean, I agree, but I don't agree also because then what am I doing here? So I mean, the guilt part. So I think like, I mean, of course, like I couldn't see your films, but I know, I have heard your name. I know you by your films, not by your name and by your interviews and teasers and trailers, but not really by. I mean, couldn't get a chance to see your films. So just so this small crew helps, and that's what you are telling it. That assertion was.
Well, first of all, congratulations. I think you've come a long way, and you made all the right mistakes, and which is fantastic. You've realized how 4 people can be a pain, and which they are. You've done it yourself, and just believe in the technology. This technology, okay. The way I look at digital technology is this, and that should sum up everything. If in the image making, in the world of image making, on a scale of 0 to 10, for me the digital technology begins at 9. So the answer is over there. You cannot go wrong unless until you are actually, there's something wrong with you. So the image making is kind of taken care of, and even in terms of sound, with the kind of equipment and even the camera mounted microphones available, it is so easy these days, to just crack it on your own. The only thing is we have to be careful is to test it out. So if you are using that camera and that particular microphone for that situation, you have to just see to it that you see the footage, take it to the technical person and say, are we on safe ground? And I've seen in today's time, even though we may be shooting in a city, technology is there to help us. And it's not very expensive. That's the other thing which people say, oh my God, as if, something is gonna happen. No, it's very cheap. I mean, I don't know over here, how much do you think you need to be a filmmaker in today's time? Can anyone give me an idea? How expensive is the camera in today's time? Give me some idea. Really. I mean, I presume half of your filmmakers.
I bought a camera, video camera.
For how much?
1.85 something.
Oh God, you wasted money.
I should have.
Huh? 20,000. A mobile is a good option, fantastic option, or any that's what I'm saying. Video technology, it starts at 9. So a camcorder, home video, which nowadays even the wedding photographers don't use that. What you use for home videos, if you see the image quality, it is fantastic. Of course, the camera person trained from FTI will make you believe that you're the biggest idiot on this planet. Do not believe them. Just don't believe them. But, there's no point going that way. That image is there in that camcorder. You get a decent microphone. A decent microphone in today's time for me would be, I would give it 15,000. So in 35,000, you're a one-man crew. What more are you looking for? Maybe accessories, another 15,000, 50. You spend 1.9. Oh my God. In 1.9, you would have done, maybe. Seriously, and what I'm saying, I practice that. Yes, now I am using a camcorder which is like 1.2 lakhs, which I bought 5 years ago.
You're right. Like the person I met was from a film school, and he guided me. I didn't meet you.
Never make that mistake. Never. The problem is they are taught in a certain way, which is so problematic. It is so problematic. I've been there. They will just ruin everything. The pedagogy is terrible.
Right. My next question is about the structuring of a documentary, especially like in the short documentary I faced it a lot, and now I'll be sitting on the edit, and I'm sure that when you structure your documentaries, how do you generally go about it? I know that there is no general answer to that, but still, some principles.
I am very old-fashioned that way because I was trained as a film editor. So this new buzz that non-linear will make things easy, and you can do anything. Damn it, you can do anything only if you know what you want to do. So how does it help? I belong to a school. I log in a very disciplined way. I log each and every sound and each and every visual which I have shot. And while logging, I do a very strong color code. So I play with fonts and colors.
Right.
So something which is NG, font number 8, better font number 10, better font number 12, even better font number 12 with a green color. So those green colors, will start going to the timeline. So I do a very strong, I log my footage very strongly. And then I do, what we call idea cards. So, okay, so there is let's put it this way. I see that one of my characters has said something very important. Let's put it this way, Jack, I'm in love with you. There's an entire scene where Juliet says, Jack, I'm in love with you. For me, that becomes an important scene. I know this is sacrosanct. That becomes an idea card. So by the end of my logging of 140 hours of footage, I maybe have 140 cards with me. As part of those 140 cards, one card would be 4 shots of rain, because it rained while I was shooting.
Right.
But 140 hours is literally reduced to 140 cards. And then I place those 140 cards on a huge table, and I just look at it from a bird's point of view. Where am I going? Where am I going? And the first thing, first rule of editing is kill your darlings. Kill them. You have to let go, See, the problem is that we do not congratulate ourselves. We only demean ourselves in day-to-day life also. So the fact that you brought 140 hours to 140 cards, you will not congratulate. You will sulk. That it doesn't work like that. For me, that's a great achievement. Then those 140 cards, I make a structure then and there. So before I go to the timeline, I know what the structure of the film is. There's no fooling around. Ki ye ho jayega, kuch nahi hoga. I don't believe in all that rubbish. Magic happens on the timeline. Nothing happens over there. Your brain has to work in the right way.
Right.
And that's how my first cut is done always. And I realize while editing that mistakes are being made. This is not working. I believe in just going ahead. Right. Because I've done a strong paper edit, I want to realize that, So I realize that I come up with a 70, 80 minute cut, and I know there are mistakes in it, But the fact is I've translated those 140 cards into an 80 minute on the timeline.
Right.
Then you review and review and review, and you'll figure out. But in a documentary, structuring is where the game is. It's not. That's the main, for me, that's the trickiest and the most challenging phase, to which you need to give maybe 10 times more time than what you give to the shoot.
Right.
So like if you shot for 3 years, I would say you should give it equal amount of time just to edit the footage, to understand, to realize. Also, you have to learn to interpret your footage. I mean, don't edit for what the footage is. What I'm saying is, when we are shooting, we give our footage a time stamp and a space stamp. Well, no, the footage is completely open to interpretation. So a shot which was actually taken for a different reason altogether is used for a completely different reason on the timeline. I do it all the time.
Okay.
It doesn't. Documentary is the interpretation of reality. It is not the reality. Once again, I would like to reiterate that some people think it is the truth and truth is sacrosanct. Well, I don't know what is the truth. I mean, these are things which I keep in mind, but the structuring is the most important thing. It's a make or break space. Yeah, right. Definitely.
Right. Thank you very much. It was very inspiring.
Congratulations for, you've come a long way. You've shot for 3 years by yourself. Just be friends with those people, don't hate them. You know, your crew members. Yeah, but I think it's important that, you know, over 1 or 2, 3 films, you should pick up skills yourself. Like, so if you are a director come camera person, then you're just looking for a sound recordist.
Right.
And you're set.
Right.
Or you're you're a director come sound recordist, then you're looking for a camera person. And then the two of you, you know, it's a very happy marriage.
Right.
And that's how it should be. Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much, sir.
Welcome, welcome. We'll talk later.
Sure,
Yeah,
sir. I would love to.
Do we have time?
Yeah.
Just one last question. Hi,
sure.
my name is Makrand Pankaj. I wanted to ask you one thing about the decentralization about documentary filmmaking. The thing is, what is happening with the structures and the film festivals and even the OTT platforms and the commercialization and the kind of grants and the manipulation and going on and
Yeah.
and we still have that Gora Chamda complex where we want grants from the Europe or the other Indian country, North country. So what I wanted to know was how you look at it, how to decentralize it, because I have 2 sub-points. One is decentralization of filmmaking, which we just you were discussing. And the second point is decentralization of distribution. How to reach the correct audience and how to.
Okay.
So these 2 points I would like to know about.
I think the starting
Thank
point is that, you know, see, it is very tricky because you want money and you also want fame. You know, मतलब जिसको हिंदी में बोलते हैं तो माया मिले या राम मिले, तो कुछ तो मिलना चाहिए. It is becoming impossible. It is becoming impossible, and over the last 3-4 years, it's gone somewhere else altogether. There is very little money, you and I know, for making documentaries. I think you have to just believe in yourself. First thing, you know, that this is the way I look at documentaries, and this is the way I'm going to make documentaries. The best judge would be those 1 or 2 people around you whom you trust. And I tell you, finding those trusted lieutenants is very difficult because it needs a super speciality to look at a rough cut and say, oh wow. Most of the people, majority 99.99, do not have that ability. They'll see the rough cut and they will force you to commit suicide that night. You know, your closest friends will do that. Do not believe in them because they do not have the ability to look at it. So trust yourself, what you are doing. And then once you do that, at least you are sure of what you are doing. That, okay, I've made this baby and I know this is a healthy, beautiful, virtuous baby. Then comes the market. Everybody negotiates with the market in a very different way. You know, well, let me tell you, till date, in 25 years, I haven't sold any of my films. I've been lucky to raise money for them at some junction or the other, but a lot of the time the money has come after 5 years, 6 years. This film which I'm finishing editing now, I haven't raised even 25 paisa on it, you know. And even though it's just 2 people, you know the kind of money which goes. So you have to believe in it. There has to be a sense of madness in your life to be in this profession in the first place, otherwise just quit. If you seriously are a documentary practitioner, just tell yourself, why are you here in the first place? Why are you here? Don't go for the glamour and stuff, because the money which is coming into documentary, it's the money of a certain kind. They want projects to be of a certain kind, which is valid. You know, they are the ones who are giving you the money, so who the hell are you? Beggars can't be choosers. But can you make films like that? That is the question. No, you can't. Then you just stick to your way and figure out. And the other thing is that you know, like I tell my students, doctor ne nahi kaha film banane ko. You know, so all of us should review maybe 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the line. Yes, it's not a viable profession. You quit, and quit in a very good spirit, you know. But if you believe in it, just make, and they will be there. I don't know. There invariably some avenue or the other comes up, you know, where you can pitch your project and something happens. And I think the problem is the first project, is the first film. You need that stamp okay, Berlin or something like that, And once that thing is through, things become slightly easier. But I'm seeing a lot of young people, they are, as you rightly said, they are catering, they are thinking like that. Like if you see European films and if you see the international selection over here, it's all character driven. We do not belong to that genre of filmmaking, yeah. We belong to the genre of Ramayana and Mahabharata, where there are, it's an epic poem prose, so our documentaries are also like that. So we are brought up like that, our psyche is like that. So we will, of course, be making films like that. So you have to just believe in it. If you see the long documentary selection, you'll get what I'm saying. I was part of the selection committee, and we saw to it.
We talk about
I was part of the selection committee, and we saw to it, me and my colleagues, that anything which has been like typically done for television, which is like so what, is out. I'm interested in, because I think the festival space is a very sacred space. If I see that this filmmaker pushed the bar, he actually went out of his way, that film is definitely in. But if you're making a straightforward, to please the, or not to please the audience, but that's your style, this is not the space. The festival is not the space for such films. Here we need to see innovation. My starting point, if I go to a festival, I want to see innovation. I'm not coming here to see West Side Story by Spielberg, no way. I'm not interested. So that was my starting point when you were even selecting the films. And if you see, the selection is quite odd. A lot of people have told me that. Yes, well, that's the way. Well, thanks, whatever. I hope it works, So keeping that idiom in mind, you also have to keep that while you're making films, And money is gonna get very, very tricky in the days to come. We have to figure out a way. I haven't explored, but things like, crowdfunding and things like that. But I think maybe you need to, what I strongly believe in is cross-subsidize. Like when I was started, I had a risk appetite. Let's put it this way, So my starting point was not how much money I will make out of Kumar Talkies. My starting point was I can withstand a loss of 10,000 rupees a month for the next 20 years. You know what I'm saying? So if I make a loss and if I have to repay that loss, 10,000 for the next 20 years, this film is definitely on. I started with that premise. And I've kept that premise on for all my projects. Let's calculate the losses first. How much loss will I make? And so, because once you calculate the losses, anything else you make is a profit. You don't get what I'm saying. So, yeah, it's a way of life which people, they will not teach you in the film school at all. I mean, don't even go there. They do not believe in the documentary genre to begin with. But figure out a way, what will be comfortable for you. And, I've seen a lot of people in the film school romantic at heart, and their romanticism translates into drugs and alcohol, and oh my God, what will I do? Because Tarkovsky died, so who will come and take my workshop now in the film school? Oh my God. That kind of bullshit I used to face all the time. I would say, believe in yourself. Just believe in yourself and tell yourself what's gonna be the roadmap. Give yourself time. I'm on this project for 2 years. Do not let go of your responsibilities. We have mother, father, a wife, a child, maybe. Those are more important than your film. These romantics believe in the other way around. I don't like them. So you have to take care of that also. Give yourself a roadmap. Okay, I have my resources, 2 years, this is the roadmap, this is my Excel sheet. End of it, if I succeed, great. If I do not, I will go back and do something else. But the fact that I spent 2 years doing something which I believed in, I think that's a victory. And if you do that, I can assure you, you can't go too wrong. Stop looking at your neighbor. Stop looking at your neighbor. He will have a BMW and an Apple and everything. In filmmaking, there is always an alternative. And yeah, cutting costs. I've never worked on a Mac. I'm a Windows person. All pirated softwares, till Yeah, till 3 years ago, I decided, nahi yaar, ab bahut ho gaya. Ab to, Adobe deserves something, so I took a subscription. Assembled pieces, and all my films, they finish on the laptop. I don't hit sound studios for this creative work or color correction. Everything is done over there. And I believe in, you see the films, you'll figure it out, whether it's good enough or not. Yes, if you look at the film, any person will say, oh, this color correction could have been better. Yes, darling, the color correcting could have been better, which would have costed me 1 lakh more rupees. So I would much rather spend 20,000 and get 80% of the work done, rather than spending 1 lakh and get 100% of the work done. Yes, I'm mediocre. I would much rather stick to that. It's as simple as that.
Yes.
So don't get carried away. You'll meet enough of these clowns all over the space. Just don't believe in them. Never. No way. Yeah. Anything? Yeah.
Sir, you conveyed your personal take on montage. Kill your darlings.
Yeah.
It calls for some elaboration. Also, my question is regarding, what about montage as a collage? These are the
Okay, fine. By kill your darlings, I mean, like Mithun, right? He shot for 3 years. I can assure you there are instances, there is footage which he's madly in love with. His heart went out when he was shooting in that chai shop. Okay, he knows this beautiful footage. The content is bang on. But when you start structuring your material, you realize it's beautiful, but it is not fitting into the project. You should have the ability to put it aside, make a separate pack of it. I will revisit my darlings later, but right now there is no space for them in my life. Out. You have to be ruthless, And well, structuring is all about montage. When you are structuring a documentary, you're actually making a very big intellectual montage. And the second thing, since you've asked me about montage, the one thing which I do while I'm shooting and while I'm editing also, I roll for sound. Do you get what I'm saying? When I'm shooting, I shoot for sound. I don't shoot for picture. I don't know if there are filmmakers over here who can understand what I'm saying. Sound takes precedence for me at the shooting stage. Sound takes precedence for me on the editing stage. A lot of my films, I first cut the soundtrack. I put the picture later. Because most of the time, the argument comes from the soundtrack. And the argument coming from the soundtrack just doesn't mean the dialogue track. It is the dialogue track moving into a silence zone of 15 seconds, into some effects, and then coming back to the dialogue zone. That's the soundtrack for me. For me, that is sacrosanct. The picture, if it is in sync, it is there. Most of the time, I try avoiding sync sound. Like, I don't like people talking on camera. I mean, most of the time in a documentary, they're boring. They do not believe in what they're saying, and I don't want to see them. So unless until they are able to convey an emotion, they are definitely out of my film. So sync sound is out, and once you are not in sync, you don't use sync sound, you can play so much with the soundtrack. Even dropping those 4 frames, 6 frames, creating pauses, stretching your soundtrack, or what do I say, compressing your soundtrack it's a sound game completely for me, documentary editing. And most of my films are edited like that. In fact, there was a film of mine which is my favorite. It's called 3 Men and a Bulb. Yes. It was done way back in 2006. And before I hit the editing table, it was just these 3 people and their life around a watermill in Uttaranchal. And I put everything in sync, and I logged the sound and I deleted the picture. I said, nothing will be in sync in this film. Nothing. And let's cut a visual. Can I make a visual track? So I took it up as a challenge, and yeah, it worked for me. So coming back, it's any film documentary, I think, is an intellectual montage. By the end of it, it is. There is no two way. And as I said, to achieve that intellectual montage, I lay a lot of emphasis on the sound edit, primarily a lot on the sound edit. And just one crazy thing which I would like to share with all of you. on the visual front. Starting from Kumar Talkies till date, all my films have rainfall. I plan my films according to the rainy season. There has to be rain in my film. I once landed up doing the worst film of my life. It was on Infosys. Even there was rain. Yeah, so I'm just like, it's a big thing on the visual palette. It can be manipulated like crazy for the mood. It can be used as a celebration. It can be used as a doom thing. So I see to it that each of my films, there is rain happening.
So I think, Pankaj, our time is
okay,
almost running
fine.
out. So we just stop here. In fact, we are all very, very, it was very lovely to hear to you, right?
Oh,
You're
thank
talking
you.
something very, very interesting and very relevant issue. And thank you so much for joining, and thank you, dear audience, for asking very relevant questions. I hope we all enjoyed the session, and perhaps we are looking forward.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for being wonderful audience and those wonderful questions. And I'm around till 15th. So
And we have many things to take from here,
Yes,
from
yes.
your conversation.
Anyway,
Thank you
just
so
catch
much.
me and we'll continue this. Thanks a lot.